from the Dukascopy TV studio in Geneva. We are discussing the use of private aircrafts within the business environment with Dan Zwerski. He's founder of Zwerski Consulting Group. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Dan, what are main considerations when purchasing a private business aircraft?
Well, Daniel, as you can imagine, the idea and the concept and the strategy of doing this is a big decision. So there are several considerations, and really the first and foremost is when a company, an organization is considering private aircraft for business use, they need to understand the mission. The mission being, what is it that the aircraft intends to do? How is it going to help them to improve their bottom line, return on investment? So really they need to treat that as a strategic capital decision, just like they would any other type of capital investment. That's the main consideration right there. So really understanding that. The second thing that they want to understand is location of the aircraft. Whether or not the location is going to be within a certain country, it could be registered in a certain country. Where is it going to be in terms of operating? So that because some countries have different regulations, you want to have it located in an area where you can easily have maintenance. You don't want to have to go out and fly several hours to get the maintenance done and things like that. So location is another key issue when considering purchase of an airplane. Next thing I would say is also the management of the aircraft. So the management of the aircraft comes down to, do you want to have that done within house? In other words, the corporation itself has an in-flight department, or do you want to have a management company that's going to take care of that for you? There are positives and negatives. If you have multiple aircraft, it might make sense to do a more of an in-house type of management consideration. But if you are a smaller operation, one, perhaps two aircraft, a management company can be better in the sense that they provide the pilots, they understand the maintenance schedules, they understand everything from getting the plane washed to getting the structure figured out as how they're going to have certain taxes and so forth. That brings me to the last part to consider. What are the tax issues involved with aircraft ownership? And what that means is you want to look at the aircraft as how is it going to be regulated, okay? In the United States, for example, you have two different ways that you can actually set up your aircraft. It's under Part 91, which is more of a general aviation private aircraft regulation environment, or is Part 135, which is much more designed for commercial use of that aircraft. Differences being, how you have depreciation set up for the asset, different tax issues, different things of how you're going to operate the aircraft. Part 135 has more stringent regulatory environment regulations in terms of types of hours that the pilots can use, maintenance, things like that. So those are really key things that you want to look at initially when you're considering the aircraft.
So really many things to consider. So how complicated is it actually to purchase an aircraft? And if it's complicated, what can be done to simplify the process?
Well, ironically, the purchase of the aircraft is probably the least complicated part. It's not very complicated, but going back to what I just talked about, it's really the preparation. It's the understanding of the use of the aircraft, where it's going to be based, all these different things which contribute to the decision on what you're going to buy and how you're going to go through the buying process. So in order to simplify that, because it's not necessarily an easy process, but it's not that complicated. But what you want to do is you want to build yourself a team of professionals. And those professionals are going to help you in your acquisition of the aircraft. And generally, you want to consider a few different types of partners. First is going to be an attorney who is well-versed in aviation issues, regulations, taxes, and things like that. Second thing you want to look at is, again, most likely they're going to go with a management company. So you want to have a management company that understands, how the aircraft can be managed, what the limitations are, and things like that. The third thing that you want to look at and consider is a finance professional. So, of course, there are many private bankers here in Geneva with Dukascopy, etc. However, you want to look to see somebody that's also having good experience in finance of aircraft and so forth, so they know all the different ins and outs as well. And then finally, you want to have a good agent and broker who is going to be the one that's going to be more involved with the actual sourcing of the aircraft itself. So they understand the market, they understand how to negotiate, they understand how to get the right aircraft for the right person or the organization. And if you want to take that simplifying process one step further, then you can look into a consulting firm, such as what we do, and those people can all be brought together under one roof to make the process even simpler, and that's really the best way to go about it.
How does one go about choosing the actual aircraft?
Well, that's a difficult question in the sense of that's where you drive down into the details of what you want the aircraft to be. There are too many things to go in this particular segment, but just looking at a few things. You want to look at how many people are going to be traveling on the aircraft. You want to know how far you're going to be taking the aircraft. What is the average route, so that you know what the range is. You need to know what kind of operation will you be coming in and out of. Will you be going out of mainly long asphalt airports? Or are you going to be looking to possibly have a strategic advantage by going into smaller airports, or even perhaps less paved or grass strips, for example, things like that. So you look at, then you look at individual tastes. You look at the interiors of the aircraft. For example, how is it set up in terms of, is it set up for more business meetings? Conference, so you might have tables in certain areas. Otherwise, maybe it's just designed to get mainly people from point A to point B in a fast process. So interiors of the aircraft, the mission, all these different things, that all plays into it, and that's where you have to really have somebody that can sit down with the client, understand what the client's needs are, what the desires are, and then point them in the right direction.
So this definitely is a nice interior to have business meetings, I suppose. So, but what are the most important, let's say, also mistakes people do when choosing an aircraft?
Well, the most mistakes or oversights that I think you would see is they truly underestimate the operational costs of owning an aircraft. Almost, again, as I said before, getting the aircraft itself is not very difficult to do. It's a straightforward process. I mean, if you have the financing, if you do a title search, you do a deed search, whatever you need to do, and you make sure the aircraft is clean, ready to go, that part's easy. But when people start wondering about the ownership, and what catches them off guard is how much insurance is, how much maintenance is, how much your storage is, pilots, management, all these different things. So the operational costs really add up, and that's what catches people off guard, I think, the most.
Thank you very much, Dan Zwerski, for being here today and sharing this information with us.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for watching. Do make sure to keep clicking back on the Dukascopy TV website for latest updates and exclusive interviews. Have a great day and see you next time.